can you tell me, doctor, why I still can't get to sleep? The scars left for me. The night time's just a jungle, dark and a bark in M16. We keep saying rest in peace.
Hey guys, welcome back to Clash with Barndo. Aussie Addicts versus Forbidden semi-finals, CWLR Season 2. You can see that 84 to 82, 94%, just under to just over 92.3%. Really interesting finish to the war. You can see the war events here. 1 minute left, 1 minute left, 1 minute left, 1 minute left. There was 5 attacks in the last minute, 8 attacks in the last 10 minutes. So much happened at the end of this war. There was a town hall 11 versus 11 from both teams. Our number 2, enemies number 1. There was one town hall 10v10 from Aussie Addicts side. Town hall 9s on both sides failed. You can see there hunts left on 1 star from town hall 11 failed. There was a couple of fails from each team on the 11s versus 10s. Really amazing war. You can see Nana there with the 2 fails, unfortunately. Big wars usually fell short there. We did have to do some fresh hits. You can see Aussie Addicts needed 5 hit downs, 10v9. Where are we? Forbidden, they needed 3. We did have 5 opens from 9s versus 10s for Aussie Addicts to 1 on Forbidden side, and the fresh hit counts were quite low on both sides. It was just a really grueling war. 3 6-packs to AA. We did get Dennis, Sir David Jr. and Adji. I'm going to show an attack from each one of those guys and how they analyse it. You can see here, I think there was one base down the bottom there. Where is it? No, 4, 5, 4, 4. So they didn't do as well cleaning off the bases. You can see there the couple of mixed 11s. On the Town Hall 10 versus 11 counts, Aussie Addicts used 9 for 2 clears, and Forbidden used 11 for 2 clears. So we both missed one of the 11s, and we kind of left it like that. You see a couple of 6-packs there. Omni taking Muffin. Where are we? Storm, Savage. We felt like they outplayed us, but then when the stats come through at the end of the war, you can see 3 attacks on that cleared by Town Hall 10, 3 attacks on that cleared by Dennis, 3 attacks there. So there was no massive major bases that caused this issue. We just didn't get many fresh hits. That's where we struggled. So overall, really exciting war. Hats off to Forbidden. They were great to organise with. It was the second time we've met this season, and it was a really good war. Now, what we needed here from Dave at this stage of the war, it was in the last 10 minutes, we wanted a guaranteed 2-star raid, and we wanted to make sure there was a chance at getting the 3 stars. So he's gone in with a Go Bitch. I'm actually not sure what's in the clan castle there, but he splits up his heroes. So he runs the Warden down the bottom. You see down the bottom of the base, there was actually no giant bombs. We did 1 Town Hall 10 hit versus this and left it. We didn't have enough spare at that stage, and we thought we would throw out a 10v10 attack, and it's going to be, there was no jump going into the Town Hall. The Queen and the Witches were going to reach that Town Hall, so he's left it at that. You'll see a load up bar there, the Wi-Fi is a bit off tonight. Left it at that, and the Witches to go through to pick up that Hound. What was good about that was there was so many skeletons still tanking that the Witches didn't get targeted by defences, and they just slowly pew-pewed away at that Hound and eventually popped it before the end. Queen had to use her ability. Obviously, the giant bombs were all around that Town Hall, so that worked well. So we're going to see a change, I think, in CWL-style wars where bases are now going to be considered. Shall we be hitting that with a Town Hall 10, or should we have a look at a Town Hall 11? Because obviously offence troops are going to go up as well, and we're going to see more and more fails. And if the Town Hall 11s are building to defend versus the Town Hall 10s, unfortunately it runs a bit of a risk, as Nanda got 3-starred by a Golar Loon as well. So we're going to run that risk of maybe building for the wrong way. So you see Dread goes in here with a Queen Walk Queen Walk Bowler through the guts. Now, so this was hit from a Town Hall 9, opened up specifically how he wanted by Mr. Sparky, and did really well. Did try and use a couple of archers down on that cannon, but we've just found that the range has been a bit weird lately with defences. Loons used because on Sparky's walk, the Queen turned back around and went for that cannon. So 6 loons in a haste is quite prepared to throw that out early and make sure everything goes the direction. Unfortunately, 5 bowlers walked, and they're going to walk along and walk into a giant bomb. so that was a bit disappointing. Otherwise, they would have pushed through the midfield a lot better. And you can see there was less than a handful. It was 4 hogs, just for a bit of variation to get on a couple of the defences. Didn't get the cannon down, but that minion is going to work its way through. So hound last to be killed by the queen, still had her ability. So well planned raid in the last 20 minutes of the war. Obviously we usually finish wars up pretty early, unfortunately due to time zones and trying to make sure they're at decent times, and that was sort of done at 7 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, great hit there. Let's have a look now at number 12. Adji came in towards the end of the war. He was being a bit crook and come in with a 6-pack at the end of the war. This was a re-hit on a base. Now, we see this kind of strategy used a lot in Town Hall 10 versus 10s, but we don't see it too often at 9s. It's a hero suicide followed by a lava loon. And the heroes don't get a huge amount, but they get enough, and they're going to be not too much use. They're not going to get in and get the queen. They're not going to be able to kill a hound. Clan castle, so you see a couple of troops there to help the heroes herd. And, you know, Wizard Tower, Tesla done by 1. Archer Tower, Tesla, I think there was one more defence there. Then goes in with his quad lava loon. So 4 hounds, goes through the defences and does it really, really well. Took in 2 skeleton spells, 1 personal and 1 donated, being the max, of course. And when that queen comes down, pops out the rage, pops out his skellies, and she gets absolutely annihilated. Unfortunately, the skeletons were within range on that mortar. Only just, you can see they're actually out of range, but the mortar was shooting them. Range defences, where is it? Forbidden had a 88% fresh hit 10v10 on our tier 2 Vicent Dog, and 88% it failed because the the Inferno picked up wall breakers and they looked like they were out of range. So finding it to be a little bit weird at the moment with ranges, but it's just something we've got to work through. Okay, the next attack we have here is number 14, and that's Cold Camp Chairs hitting Serious Thinking. Now he's gone in with a raid, which I don't really know what to call it, bar saying it's a Queen Walk Kitchen Sink raid. He's used bits of everything, and it's worked really, really well. Not sure how people go with their personal preferences, but when you go more than sort of 6 or 7 unit types, it does make it kind of hard because you've got to think along a lot of different phases of the war raid, and it was really good. Tesla Farm came out there, wasn't aware that was there. This was a fresh hit. Didn't know what the clan castle was. They were running a lot of hounds in the clan castles, which did lead to a lot of grief to some of our bases being hit. Unfortunately picked up that Tesla a little bit late with the wizard and didn't target the Tesla straight up, so left that standing. That's alright, he's going to deal with that later. It's a baby witch goblin clan castle. Does well to pick up that then with the golem and then redirect those through. What was really good about this was he managed to start his second phase, which had golems, bowlers, wizards, witches, Jimmy Bob thrown in there as well, and kept his queen, who went down to about 25-30% health. So managed to do that whilst getting the second phase going, and a few hogs there just for a bit of variation. So didn't see the Troll Tesla down the bottom until the end of the war, but that was alright because everything was going towards that direction. So done really well with the funneling, done really well to keep his queen ability. It was a really schmick raid when a lot of our bases we were failing versus. So hats off to Forbidden this week. They had absolutely awesome bases, and it did certainly pull out a chink in our armour, and we need to make sure we reassess that before next week when we take on Gunma in the grand final. Let's have a look here at SDJ on 23s. Goes in with a shattered go hog. There's no bowlers in the clan castle. It's another 6 hogs, so near on 30 hogs. Uses those loons at the start to get a good nice herd on the side. They do really well. Only 2 loons, gets the 2 defences and creates that funnel on that side there. One of the golems walks off to the side, but the second golem goes into the middle there. Deals with some of the clan castle. Must have used, I had a skelly spell as well. Not really sure whether the skelly spell was worthwhile there. You see the split CC causing a bit of grief. But old Jimmy Bob gets in and gets the job done, and then starts his hog. 3 heels for the hog, so a good chunk of hogs, doesn't just slam them all down like the old Barndo. Make sure he uses them a little bit more surgical, but in the end, by adding them all in groups, gets that that mass effect, which is good. Didn't have the poison for those skillies. Pops his queen ability, didn't really need that at the end. So yeah, SDJ had a 6-pack war. There was no trolls or anything like that, just the building hut down the side and down the bottom, and did miss that on both of his raids. Poor old Sir David, we give him a bit of grief. Missed an attack last week, which we're not going to let him live down for a long time. Now we'll have a look at one more with Dennis from his 6-pack. He's had to morph his raids recently. Dennis, good with air, loves his lava loons, loves variations of that, dragons, raids like that. And some of the base structures that you're seeing, you've got these air defences being banked up together. So if you take the 3 lightnings and the 1 earthquake, you've got a good chance of removing 2 for 7 spell slots. Now it takes a donated max earthquake to make sure he had that 4% variation off that spell. If you use those amount of spells and you only get 1 down, it's a near a nightmare. What was really good about this with the heroes was he added 2 wizards, and those 2 wizards are absolutely massive value. Old Jimmy Bob walks up the top there, he's tanking the cannon, and then that wizard goes in and pulls out that second air defense. Absolutely massive ability. Does draw the clan castle in the end as well, and that works for benefit because he ends up having that come up to his dragons, which is really cool. And the witch skeletons, summon skeletons being out of the way, they cause dragons such grief, it can be really, really painful. So you see those dragons starting down the bottom there. Now he's got a lava hound in the clan castle, a couple babies, 9 loons I think it was, possibly 10, and a couple of hastes to get through the blowers there. So really, really good base analysis here. The hound, he wasn't sure whether he would have an air defense alive, but just in case, took it, and it was a really, really good raid. Unfortunately, sometimes this raid is based on using 2 hounds, and at times you get sort of stuck where you've got a tank, two tanks alive, and you don't have enough DPS or enough loons to get through it. So really, really good analysis of that. That extra wizard came through for the goods. So it's a bit of a wrap up of the war. Absolutely awesome. A little bit tired, a little bit knackered. It was a really hard slog, the entire war. 9s failed. 10s didn't do as well as we've done in the last few weeks. But we came through with the goods. Next week we have a bye. It's the following week we take on Gunmar for the grand finals. So yeah, proud of me guys and gals. And hopefully I'll see you in a couple of weeks.